Hello, fellow assassins, and welcome to Hardcover Hooligans, where all we do is assassinate books. And by assassinate, I mean read them.
Yeah,
and
we're killing
put
books
them on our
right
shelf.
with our eyes. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I have...
Fuck yeah.
I believe it or not, I did not pre-write that. That was off the cuff.
No way, really? Wow, that was really good.
Yeah, I know. If Mac, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you had the magic skill, what sort of funny mind tricks would you play on your enemies?
I'd make my boss give me $1 billion every paycheck. Make him think it's his idea.
You did Inception. It is sort of like Inception.
It is a little. Yeah. It doesn't seem as far as I know though, if you die in the skill, you don't die for real, but that's good, you know. Wait, if you die in Inception, do you die for real? If you die in the dream, or do you get pulled out of the dream?
I think you get pulled out cause
you don't die.
Yeah. I don't think so, unless you get so lost in the dream.
We're
reading Inception, deep. Folks.
Right. Yes, we're reading the novelization of Inception.
So we are reading the second half of Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. If you are joining us for the first time halfway through, that's fine. But if you're confused, go listen to the last episode. I have some initial thoughts, and my initial thought is we said up top in the last episode that, hey, if you haven't read this book, you should stop listening to this and go read it. I'm going to once again implore you, if you have agreed with us about anything, we probably share similar aesthetic tastes. So seriously, stop listening. Go read this book.
Yeah. No, for real.
It's so good.
Agree. It is so good.
Oh, so we're done with it, Mac.
We're done. But we have two more.
How do you feel being done with it? What's your overall impression of the book? Sans spoilers. We'll do sans spoilers at the beginning here.
I mean, I was incredibly satisfied. I think this is a fantastic book. I think it's a fantastic first book in a trilogy. I think the story that it sets out to tell is a complete story, and I think it sets up an exciting future for the characters. I couldn't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, and it does make you care about the characters. Like if you're looking for some action-packed thing, you're not going to find it because. Since when do presidents tell all their plans to a 12-year-old boy? And since it's from the point of view of a 12-year-old boy, you're not going to get all that crazy stuff until he finds out about it.
He's not doing.
I also want to say up top,
whooping ass and all that stuff.
Right? He's just being a moody teen.
Yeah, no, none of that. Well, he is a moody teen, but he's not fueling that into John Wick-esque badass fight choreography.
It's funny because they do kill his dog, but he does not go John Wick all over them.
They do kill his dog.
Yeah, we don't call it kill the dog anymore. They John Wicked the dog. Okay, I just wanted to say before we started, I believe the master assassin's name is pronounced Shade.
No
and
way.
Not Chade.
It's got to be Chade. How do you know that? Who told you that?
Well, there's a point where the fool rhymes with the word shade. He uses like a double entendre for shade instead of Chade.
Are you serious? Wow, that must have went right over my... I guess I just completely missed that. So Shade, I mean, that's fine. I buy that. So maybe it is Burrich if we're wrong about the other things.
Oh, yeah, potentially. We could have looked this up for recording, but whatever.
I'm not. There's no way she has said that's how you pronounce these people's names. Like, you think insane people do that? Just be careful. You might venture into spoilers.
How to pronounce Kamala? That's the top response.
It's nice. She's in the book, so that we need to know that.
Pronunciations. Shade. Someone said, yes, the fool has a pun.
Oh, the fool does
shade.
have a pun.
He's like, find your shade. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, someone else says Burrick. Seems like people say it both ways, so whatever. Right. We'll use both.
Yeah, we can say Burrick. Fuck it.
Oh my god, where was I? All that. Mac, would you like to do... We're going to get into spoiler territory now.
Yeah.
Mac.
Yeah.
Would you like to do a recap of where we have come thus far?
Yeah. Just quick recap. Our main character, the protagonist, if you will, is the titular assassin's apprentice. His name is Fitz. He is the bastard son of the king-in-waiting, or Prince Chivalry. After he is discovered by Prince Chivalry's family, he is ushered off to Buck Keep, which is like, I don't know, it's your King's Landing, it's your London, it's where the king would live, you know. He is growing up in this castle. He becomes a strange sort of... He becomes the king's man. Like, he's a king's man. The king asks him to, like, do whatever he says, and he'll call upon him to do something at some point in his life. And if he agrees to do it, then he'll, like, never want for anything. And so he agrees, and he becomes the apprentice of the court assassin, Shade, who's an old man. Word comes to Buck Keep that Prince Chivalry, who, after it was discovered that he had a bastard son, abdicated his kingship in waiting and left to the Withy Woods, I believe is what the place is called, with his wife, the queen, or I guess Princess Patience, Lady Patience. He dies under mysterious circumstances. Pretty sure by the end of the book I know who did it, but I can't, I guess, be 100% sure. And as Fitz is growing up, there's this terrible threat on the horizon where these Viking-esque raiders are not only killing coastal villages, but also doing this mysterious thing to them where they're making them almost like husks of people. Like, they can still walk and talk and eat food, but all they want is, like, to destroy and kill, and to be self-served first, not specifically like to kill, but all they care about is themselves.
Basically zombies, but it's almost like their like connection to life and other people has been severed. It's like their soul has been removed, basically.
Yeah. Where we left off was that while Chivalry is dead, the Lady Patience is not dead, and she had just come to court. And I'm not sure if this is in literally the next chapter or the previous chapter, but it is decided that Fitz will be granted the ability to learn the magical power called the Skill, which is vague. We don't know what it is when the book ends, or the section we read last time ends, but we learn all about it here. Also, Fitz has like a weird thing where he can commune with animals. That is decidedly, I think by the end of this, I feel like I can safely say, not the Skill. Something else.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Because I was curious if it was maybe the same thing, but it's something called the Wit, and his not technically or like legally or anything, but adopted dad, the stable master, says that if you use the Wit too much on like a dog, you'll pretty much turn into like a beast man. Or if you use it on an animal too much, you turn into that animal. You meld minds with them. And so he's like develops this relationship to this dog who gets killed, which is very sad. And he's like warned to never do it again. So that's where we left off. We have a magical little boy who is training to be an assassin. He has yet to assassinate anybody. He's yet to kill anybody. He kills his first person in this next section.
And his stepmom has decided he's gonna go to school. And
true, yeah.
And then Burrick told him, like, okay, so Galen, should we say Galen?
Galen, yeah.
Galen, the guy who's gonna teach you, he hates you.
Yeah.
He hates you so much. And Fitz is like, all right. So where we
and boy
left
does he.
off. Oh yeah. Oh, but slightly before this, Fitz gets a dog from Lady Patience.
Oh, that's right.
Lady Patience is trying to like teach him all this stuff, and Fitz is like, "Hey, can I have one of those puppies?" And Lady Patience is like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, take a puppy." And then Fitz is like, "Oh my god, I love you, thank you. You could never give me anything better than this puppy." And she's like, "Okay." And then she starts calling him. He names it Smithy, and there's also another funny moment here where no one's still really given Fitz a name. Like, some call him Fitz, some just call him Boy, and Lady Patience is like, I
forgot about this. It never gets brought up again.
Tom, and then she forgets about it immediately. And
Yeah,
Fitz is like, I
she
guess
never
I'm
ever
Tom
says it
now.
again.
And then she never says it again.
It's very funny.
And he has another interaction with the Fool with Smithy, and apparently the Fool has no smell because Smithy and Fitz are like can mentally tied, and Smithy's like, oh, the Fool doesn't have any sort of discernible scent. So the mystery of the Fool continues. Last time,
he's sort of we didn't say this, but if you're just tuning in now, the Fool is the King's Fool, but he's sort of like translucent and like a weird monster man, but he's like a human being, but he's also very weird.
Yeah, he's very strange. It's like implied he like knows the future, and people don't know, like, does he just guess? Does he like make it come true? Is he just crazy? And the Fool, Fitz is like one of the only people he talks to like a normal person. Because his first interaction with him was like, oh, this guy's weird and does riddles. Like, what are you saying? And he like was talking to him. And the Fool's like, I'm not an idiot, you idiot. Listen to what I'm telling you.
I still didn't. Danilo, do you know what he was talking about? I still don't. And I didn't go back and look.
Oh, when he was...
Fixes fat suffices or whatever.
Oh, yeah. That was the whole prophecy of, remember, he went at night to like get the bone out of that princess's dog's... throat, and then he solved the problem because it's Fitz fixes Feist, which I think was the name of the dog or the kind of dog.
Oh,
Feist's Fitz, which is like he was like struggling. Fat suffices, and he used grease or whatever to slide the thing.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So he knew.
He knew somehow that was going to happen. And now we meet Galen. Now, imagine Dumbledore if Dumbledore was super evil and the first thing you heard about him was that he murdered a child.
Yeah. It's like if the Jedi were killing the younglings who were not good at the Force. He's a fucked up guy, but unfortunately he's the only guy around who not who uses, but whose job is to teach others the skill. Because a character later is like, I could teach you if we had a year and nothing else to do. Just in case the reader's like, how come you have to learn it from this fucking freak? That's why. It's because it's his job.
He's the only one who has no other job. And it's implied that he's like not super strong or super good at it, but like he's what they have. And
it's implied that, and then at the end of the book, it's like, yep, correct. He was the worst maybe at it.
And he, as of right now, we know he was an ally or like loyal to the old Queen Desire, who
very loyal.
Was poisoned and died at some point.
Off page.
And then Fitz is told that Galen killed a little girl because she was demonstrating the wit. And so this scares Fitz and causes him to like put up walls in his mind to stop, anyone from learning that he has the wit.
Killed her via like an ancient rite of like, if you take a person before these seeing stones on this hill,
right?
Like these big stones, and you like challenge them, and you kill them, then like the seeing stones have deemed you worthy because you managed to kill them in front of the stones. So it's like like avoiding like court justice or like kingly justice.
It's like trial by champion almost, but it's
except you got to be the champion and you're a little girl and I'm gonna beat you to death. It's fucked up.
And that comes up later.
Oh yeah.
And so Galen sort of takes the allure out of fun magic school. This is not Hogwarts where there's tasty yummy treats on the table. This is standing out in the cold in your bare feet in winter while an old man abuses a group of children.
Yeah, it's like a TikTok where it's like we're Alpha Man Academy. Like we're learning to. You pay $15,000 for this course. You learn how to become an alpha man.
Except you do it to 12-year-olds.
Yep, and it's like all you're going to eat is figs and one piece of bread and no talking at the dinner table.
And he's so mean that he basically trauma bonds all of them to him and to each other. Which is, really he does do it on purpose. It's fucked up. Like, that is why he is doing this. It's also, this is when we learn that the skill can be addicting. Like, using it a lot feels really good. So this is his sort of way of mitigating that by
Yeah.
foregoing all earthly pleasures and teaching anyone with the skill to, like, don't trust things that feel good, because then they won't be lost to the skill. Because apparently there's users who've used it too much, where they're like constantly using it and they're like totally lost. They're like blabbering fools who can't put two sentences together.
Yeah, it's a fun idea for like listen, there's no magic system in this book, but it's a fun idea for like a consequence of magic, is that not just it's powerful, but it's literally addicting. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like so it's not like it's harmful. It's like so good and pure that it can like break people. Which is sort of interesting, because you sort of see. I'll be interested to see how it all connects. Like, the wit seems sort of similar to the skill, but like with animals, and the skill also seems like this thing that's connected to like the human soul, which is what's getting ripped away from like the forged people. So it all sort of seems like it's the same like in magical environment, but these are all these like different little things. So it'll be cool to see how it connects as it goes forward. But these classes are 20 kids standing in the winter outside all day,
getting their shit rocked crazy style.
Right. And they just do this all the time, and occasionally they start working on skill stuff. Galen, like,
it's like 3 months. It's like 3 months of standing in the cold and getting hit with a whip, and then they start doing like very light magic training.
And at some point, like, Galen tests Fitz, and Fitz like fights him off, and he doesn't know how he did it. And then Galen accuses Fitz of like drawing strength from someone. I don't remember what the phrasing was, but it was super cool.
Your cat is like, who is your catamite? And he's like, what? And he's like, I don't know. What the fuck are you talking about?
And Galen's like, I can't believe he lets you draw his strength. And Fitz has no idea what he's talking about.
But who is he talking about? I wonder.
And then at some point in the winter, Galen does like a test of all of them, and he was probably easier than the other students, because again, he hates Fitz because he loved chivalry ostensibly, and so Fitz is like a stain on chivalry's memory.
It is said here that he loves chivalry. By the end of this book, we find out that it could not be further from the truth. But what a cool, like, because you're like, oh, he loves chivalry. This thing is like staining his name, so it makes sense why he hates him. And it's just like by the end of the book, a pretty cool inversion of like, no, actually, he hated your dad and he fucking hates you too. So that's I like that.
A classic Snape situation.
Yes, if you will. But it's very funny. I think we're getting way ahead here, but I think it's very funny that the reason Galen hates chivalry is because chivalry was like mind bullying him.
Oh, yeah.
Just because chivalry is like god tier at the skill, which is very funny.
It's like if you're I can't think of a comparison.
It's like if your friend's dad was really good at Elden Ring. And he kept beating you, and so you were mad at his son. He's beating you at Elden Ring PvP. Fuck you. Fucking
stop doing blasphemous blade.
Stop fucking rivers of blood fucking bullshit.
Anyway, Galen like does this full frontal confrontation.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
Like mental melding.
Yeah.
Like he sort of like teases him like mentally. Like it's the way this magic is described is so like tied to like internal monologue. Like she describes it like in terms of touch, but it's all like mind. Like he could feel like his fingers, raking against the side of my mind or something like that.
Yeah.
But Galen like full body mind slams him, and then Fitz like fights back and like feels the super intense ecstasy of the skill and is like, oh man, this shit is crazy. Apparently it's like described as like being one with the universe, or like, the ecstasy of transcending the world and stuff. It's crazy.
I was just going to say, it's funny that like, I don't know if this is just Galen and it's like skill propaganda, but I think it's compelling and interesting that that's portrayed as bad, like being one with like this magical force that makes everybody come closer together is actually bad. Like I'm curious if that is actually real, or if it's more just like they don't want you to do that because if you do that you become really good at this and we have to sort of like gatekeep our magic powers.
Or I wonder if it's bad in that like that addicting way, like if you do it too much, like you are then separate from like your role in the world and the people around you, kind of like the forged people.
Oh, true.
Like if you're always at one with the universe, you can't like you can't bake a loaf of bread, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's hey, can we just say that's what's happening, right? The forged people have been like they're like in skill hell, right?
They're like skill wiped or something. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like trapped in their mind somehow. I feel like you could bring them back, but everybody who's trying and doing experiments isn't a magical little boy, so they're not having great success with that.
Or like you're so fried, like at the end of this book a character gets so fried out of the skill that they can't skill anymore, so like maybe the Schwartz are like that's happening to them or something. But that's sort of what Galen does to Fitz here. He's like, oh my god, you're too powerful, and then he like skill burns him away, mind fries him, and then actually like physically beats him up.
Yeah, which we don't know that he like skill, like he casts a pallor over his mind until Fitz realizes it like 40 pages later.
Right. But because of it, Fitz becomes like suicidal and like he's gonna like throw himself off the wall because he's like so ashamed of like not doing a good job and everyone believed in him and like the skill. It's almost like withdrawal symptoms from like that ecstasy. Like,
but that all is a magical. That the reason he feels like he wants to kill himself is because it's a magical like curse placed upon him.
But then his puppy Smithy is like, "When are you coming over to give me meat?" And he's like, "Okay."
He's like bleeding, draped off of a castle rampart. He's like, "Fuck my fucking dog." Fine, I won't commit suicide. I'll feed my dog.
And so then Burrick gets incredibly mad at this and like basically takes him out of classes. He takes him out of school.
Yeah, he does.
For a sick couple weeks and just like helps him recover because he got beaten. Fitz got beaten within an inch of his life. And then later we find out from the Fool that Burrick went and challenged Galen to the witness stones and beat the shit out of Galen, which I found very satisfying.
Yeah, and there's this very funny part where Burrick, like Fitz wakes up after having his shit rocked, and Burrick is there, and he's in like the stable, and he's like, "What happened?" And Fitz tells him, and Burrick's like, "Okay, I'll be back." And then it's like Fitz wakes up like wearily like 24 hours later, like when the door opens, and it's like Burrick like covered in blood and his shirt's all tattered. But Fitz like makes remarks that like I had never seen Burrick happier in my whole life. It was like, he just beat the shit out of this fucking guy, man.
In a book that is incredibly bleak, the little moments of perceived justice and comeuppance are very satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
But then it's it's sort of sad that they have to do that. Not a good scene.
Yeah. No, it's not.
So Fitz recovers. He's not going back to classes. He spends time with Molly, who they're falling in love. They were childhood friends, but now they're falling in love. And she's like hitting on him super hard, and he doesn't have a clue. And it's a very sweet scene. And because it's written in the point of view of like a memoir, like he's looking back on it, he can look back on like, oh, if I just said this one thing in this moment, it could have all turned out differently, but I didn't, and so it's lost her forever. It's super sad. But then Fitz goes back to lessons when he's all good, and Galen is all like has like bruises and has to like walk with a cane and stuff.
Yeah, and he's not like hitting them anymore. He's like, just do silent reading time today. And it's like,
don't play chess with each other.
Yeah. Oh, they do actually. They literally do.
They like play mind chess to like practice, but so students keep dropping off, but also they keep developing the skill, and they all hate Fitz, and Fitz is not really good at the skill. Because he like can't connect with anyone, so he's not really doing anything. And then Galen announces a trial, and after this trial, then they will be declared a coterie. And what a coterie is in the old times, these skill users would be in these mutually chosen groups, and they could all like they were like the Avengers of this universe, and they would and they could all draw off each other's powers and amplify each other, and like they had this really close bond. But Galen is trying to like create this artificially almost, whereas in the old times they were stronger because they could choose each other.
Yeah.
But then everyone's like, "Wait, we gotta use what we have." So these artificially created coteries are gonna have to be what's gonna happen.
And there's also, as we learn later in the book, he is not doing this maybe for the good of the kingdom. He is like, what if I made a bunch of people that I could suck all the power from and be the even cooler magic user, because I'm not very good at this. But at the time, because you also get the sense of this whole thing that like, this is not like, how would this be useful? Like, we learn later there's like a whole bit where Fitz like really learns what the skill is capable of doing, and you as the reader are like, holy shit. But this is like, oh, they can like talk to each other standing across a room. Like, you as the reader
it's
are like,
parlor
what
tricks
the fuck
almost,
is this? Yeah, it's like a terrible magic skill. Whereas like we've seen the fact that Fitz was able to like, he like brain blasts Burrick at the beginning of this book, and he does it to Galen here, and it like really fucks up Galen, hence why he almost beats him to death. You're like, okay, so it is obviously more powerful than Galen is making it seem, but this coterie is a terrible idea. And like, yes, as the book goes on, it is a terrible idea.
Yeah, and do you get the sense like Galen either does not fully understand the skill, or he's like having it in a form that he can control, which is on purpose.
Yes, it is. It is on purpose.
But Galen announces there's going to be a trial, and these are like the class finals, and everyone who passes will become a coterie, and everyone who doesn't gets kicked out.
This is so Fourth Wing coded. Do you remember when I was telling you about Fourth Wing, and I was like, their final mission for the year is they have to like go on a mission,
right.
And then when they go on a mission, it gets destroyed. The whole time, now obviously this came first, but I was like, I see you, Rebecca Yarros. I see you. I feel you.
And Fitz sort of knows that he's not gonna pass because it's probably gonna be rigged in some way. The idea is they're gonna get dropped off somewhere far away. Galen's gonna send them a message via the skill, tell them where they are, where to go, and they'll have to meet back at Buckkeep.
But it's not just that. You can't just go back to Buckkeep. It would be like you have to meet up with Sally and bring 3 sticks, because otherwise you could just fucking show up. Right. But even if Fitz did get the skill, he has got a crazy ride back to Buckkeep.
Yeah, so Galen tries to kill him by dropping me off in the middle of nowhere. Small little boy. Was he like 13 now?
Yep.
And he does not contact him, or at least Fitz does not hear anything. And then he starts walking back. He sort of knows where he is. He's north, and he's like, oh shit, the road goes right through Forge.
Yeah, I know. As soon as he got dropped off and he was like, it looks a little familiar, I was like, oh no. Like, I knew exactly. Like, if it look, you've been to one place. If it looks familiar, you have to know where it is. You've only been to one place.
And then he has a bad dream.
Yeah.
Where Burrick is getting attacked and is lying out bleeding on the floor. He gets attacked or stabbed by someone, and so is Smithy, his dog.
I was under the impression that Smithy like died here, but when he shows up back at Buckkeep, Smithy's like totally fine. Because like it doesn't, or is that
Didn't
Burrick
Smithy die? I think Smithy dies here.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I guess she does, huh? Oh, but she like hangs on for a really long time.
Right. And
that's what it was. That's what I was confused about. I was like, she got stabbed like 40 billion times. But like,
because Fitz gets the scene from Smithy's point of view
through the wit and the skill, because he can also see, like, he hears like somebody arguing, and then like it like moves to the stables, where then he gets it from Smithy's point of view. And it's here where you're like, oh, I think that Fitz is actually probably really good at this. It's something else is going on.
Right. He has some blocks in the way, some mental blocks. And it's funny because it's framed like I dreamt a strange dream, and then you have this, and then, like, as a reader, you're like, oh no, this is actually happening. And at the end, and then he wakes up. He's like, I gotta get back to Buckkeep right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, trial super rigged. He goes back, he goes through Forge, he sees a red ship like dock and use a well, and he has to like avoid it. And a bunch of Forged also come and attack him, and he has to kill them. Like,
he just
with
whoops their ass
staff.
too. It is,
yeah.
He fucks them up.
He goes into like a battle rage. He like,
yeah.
Is this like where he like doesn't remember what happened? He just like comes to, and he has like blood all over him, and none of it.
It's like the fight scene is described of him like running away, but he can't like. It doesn't. He said it's not. I don't think it's like a battle rage. What he remarks on is that he sort of felt nothing doing it because they are nothing. Like, he doesn't feel a human connection to the people that he killed because their humanity has been stolen, so he doesn't feel any guilt about it.
After that, he gets back to Buckkeep. Burrick has indeed been attacked.
But he's all right.
But he's all right. Smithy, I think, is dead.
Yeah, no, you're right. Smithy's dead because he's like, he gets to, Burrick's laid out, and he's like, oh, Burrick, I know what happened. And he's like, Smithy died. And he's like, I know. And Burrick's like, how do you know that? You've been communicating with the dog. We're not talking anymore. And then they have a big falling out. They have a big sad falling out. Until literally like the last 30 pages of the book, they have a big falling out.
It's super sad. Galen, Burrick is super happy that Fitz is alive, and also really mad at Galen for doing it. But Galen and Prince Regal are very upset that Fitz is back. And we haven't talked at all about Prince Regal for this. No, but he's also not really there.
No, he's politicking a marriage for. Okay, so we also didn't talk about this. Prince Verity, the super nice.
This is actually when it comes up. This is when.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now Fitz isn't in classes anymore, so.
Oh, that's right. He's like listening to gossip.
Or like, you need another job, and so like, oh, you're gonna. No, doesn't the Fool? I think the Fool orchestrates it. Like, hey, take these pastries up to Verity.
He does, but Molly lets him know when they are talking, like before when we talked about, they're like, yeah, did you hear? Like, Regal's trying to find Verity a wife, and he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I've been too busy doing martial arts with all my friends, and then
all my friends who hate me.
Yeah, yeah. And then when he gets back to Buckkeep, like he starts listening and realizes that is what's happening, and Prince Verity is like never coming out of his room, so he doesn't know what's going on, so he brings these, he's like, okay, you gotta feed the fucking Prince Verity if he's not gonna come to eat. And what Fitz comes to realize is that the reason he's not coming out of his room is because he's got fucking Cerebro on from the X-Men, and he's sitting in his room,
in his tower,
and he's like corrupting the minds of the Red Ship navigators to like crash or see stormy days when they're nice days, and vice versa. And he is like commanding. He is single-handedly trying to defend the country because the king isn't doing anything.
And because the king, I mean, it's later revealed he's not that strong at skilling. And
well, it's later revealed that he can't do the skill at all. It's been completely burned out of him, and he's too proud to admit that. But Verity
and this country has no navy, so they're totally useless against the red ships. So literally, Verity is the only person who can like stave them off. But also, no one, like the country doesn't know all the ones he does stave off, so they only know the ones that like get through by accident, and so like, they're not doing anything, even though Verity is like wasting away in his tower, skilling literally all day to total exhaustion.
I can't remember the number, but there's like a specific number given where it's like, by this point, 1,000 villagers had been forged. It's like a very specific number. Because they keep track, because they have like a sense. You would imagine the king has a census and whatever, and so it's like insane when you think like, oh my god, what happens if Verity is not there? Because he like makes the king. He has to. This is only jumping ahead a little bit. Okay, Verity is like getting married, and because he's getting married to this like mountain princess who has this like tradition, he has to go to the wedding. And he tells the king, he's like, if I go to the wedding, by the time we get back, which is like a 6-week trip, round trip, he's like, none of this will be here anymore. Like, I am the only reason we are not destroyed yet. And I think this is like the moment where the king, I think, too, is like, oh. It's like, uh-oh. So, yeah, it is super
And because, and it's described like Verity's been doing this, but the king has been like managing the interpolitics between the 6 duchies, because there's the 3 coastal duchies who are having their shit rocked by these red ship raiders, and
big time.
and then the king is raising taxes to try to bolster their defenses, but the inner duchies they don't have this problem, and they're rich
and so they're
also
we don't
loyal
care
to the old queen. So why are we paying all these taxes? So King Shrewd is trying to be super shrewd about all this other stuff when his son Verity is
and I found this to sit.
Him away.
This hits that's so real. You sit now and you're like, well, why do I care about what's going on in the Middle East? And it's well, the people who are there fucking care. It's just it's such a realistic depiction of these politicians of the inner duchies, of which Regal is from the inner duchies. So he'd also, even though he lives at Buckkeep, which is not, it's coastal adjacent, it's in the middle, and it's on a river, so technically a red ship could get up the river, but that'll probably never happen. He is of the opinion oh, we shouldn't care about this, we can keep living our lives and doing court intrigue and floozing around with women and wine and all this stuff. Meanwhile, the realities of a horrible war are encroaching on everybody's doorstep, and it also doesn't help that a guy, a magic guy who can see every raping, burning, and pillaging is because you have to think he's also being buffeted with horrible images 24/7.
Verity can see all the people in that he's lord over. He feels incredibly guilty because he can see them and he knows them, and that's why he keeps these detailed maps. They're not just maps of just to know things, they're maps of places he feels he knows because his mind's so big.
He invades their minds, and the red ship raiders are evil, but he's oh my fucking god, they also have families and stuff at home, and he's it's and Fitz is hey, I brought you pastries, and he's I don't want to even talk about pastries right now. And so they learn about
so this is where Fitz and Verity start having a relationship, because Verity's you remind me of my older brother, and Verity's all I shouldn't be the king in waiting, because it should be your dad, and he
Prince
died, and I'm not good at this.
Prince Verity
love
rules,
Prince
man.
Verity.
Me too.
And Fitz is hey, if you're feeling super weak, you can draw some strength from me. And Verity's I don't know. And Fitz is
Verity's
no, I'm loyal to you.
Yeah, Verity's are you sure? And Verity's oh, he's been taking the skill classes. He knows what he's signing up for. And so he's
and then the next paragraph, it's Fitz was waking up to in bed.
In bed, shivering, he's had a terrible disease for 20 years of his life. And he's
Verity's I should have known that was happening.
He's you fucking said you were fine. And he's oh shit, okay, so I'll never do that. He's I promise I'll never ever do that again. But Verity is also very real. He's don't ever offer it again, because I need that. Because he does it, and he's completely fine again. Because he, it's they traded life forces.
Right. You can suck the life from other people. So, and this is where we learn more about the skill, and Verity is Galen, and he's creating a coterie that's no better than messenger pigeons or something like that. Because they can basically just be at these towers and be the raiders are here. That's basically all they can do. Whereas clearly Verity's there's so much more that the skill can do, but I'm the only person who was taught in this old way, and I don't have time to teach you because I'm single-handedly holding this kingdom on. Single-handedly holding this kingdom together. And this is where all the stuff comes up about Verity needs to get married, and he's Shrewd, if I leave, there's gonna be no kingdom to come back to. And eventually Shrewd is all right, Regal will go instead. we'll Skype you in to your own wedding later, literally with the skill.
Okay, but
Shrewd gives Fitz his first assignment. Mac, do you want to explain Fitz's first assignment?
Yeah, so it's simple
King's
on
assassin.
Paper. It's a simple assassination on paper, but there's so many things happen here
we
that
learn
are
later.
sort of revealed that we learn later. He is told that the king in waiting of this mountain kingdom. The way the line of succession works in this fantasy universe is that gender doesn't matter; it is just birth. And so the birth
or in
order
the I think in the Mountain Kingdom specifically.
I thought it was on the whole place. I didn't think. I thought that they didn't care either. But either way, yeah, in the Mountain Kingdom at least, it's the king. Like the current line of succession is the king. It's this man named Rorisk, and his daughter
Ketrikin,
right. Rorisk is. What Fitz is told.
Shrewd says.
Yeah. Rorisk was once a brave warrior and could be a great king, but he suffered like an arrow wound and he's like coughing up blood and he looks incredibly weak. So, if Ketrikin could be next in line and she would be queen of the Mountain Kingdom and also married to the king of the 6 duchies, I mean, that's a pretty powerful alliance right there.
And it's sort of implied that, like, this is a condition of the deal of the marriage. Like, the king of the Mountain Kingdom is also like, if we can do this, then, like, you can marry Ketrikin, and then we'll be joined, and everything will be good.
Yeah.
So, they travel to the Mountain Kingdom on this assignment. The capital's called Jamp.
Hang on, wait. One thing.
Go ahead.
He tells Chade about this.
Oh, yeah.
And Chade, like, looks at him, and he's like, oh, you didn't know? And Chade's like, no, I did not. And then he, like, gets on Fitz's level, and he's like, if you don't think King Shrewd would do the same exact thing to you, you are out of your mind. And, like, then he leaves. And Fitz is like, what the fuck? What is going on? I'm 14. And so, he's 14!
I know, he's 14. And all these adults are like, you know, the second you stop being useful is the second they'll kill you. He's been getting that line since he was 6. It's crazy.
And so they go.
And this whole book is written so well because, like, he, like, clearly has internalized that to such a degree through all, like, the actions and choices he makes that like he doesn't know he's doing it, and that's what makes it makes him such a good character and interesting to read about. Like, it's so sad.
Yeah, I also think that it's Jampe.
Jampe? All right.
Yeah, Jampe.
That makes more sense.
According to our Robin Hobb, the subreddit. I don't know if that's
Jampe
true.
is better than Jamp.
That sounds more...
Go to Jamboree.
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah. But we can, I mean, to explain their culture in one word, they're Norse. That's what is going on. And they live in a tree village, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. They, like, grow trees, and then they, like, weave them together with colorful tapestries, and that's, like, those are their big tents and anything. Anyway,
it's cool.
They're a different culture. Their leader is not called the king. They're called the Sacrifice, which is very on the nose.
Yeah.
But they also culturally, like, everyone does, like, serving work. Like, it's less hierarchical because the people who are in charge are, like, seen in a place of service to everyone else.
And Fitz shows up already knowing the language, which her name is Jean-Qui, right?
Yeah.
He thinks he's like a simple serving woman. Later finds out king's sister, right? Or
right.
incredibly important person. But it's interesting how as soon as he, like, shows aptitude at the language, she's, like, following him all the time, and you're like, like, right away. It is so fucking funny how as soon as Fitz steps foot into the Mountain Kingdom, his cover is blown. Like, all the people who know he's an assassin know he's an assassin,
right.
and know what
and like at the
do.
first meeting, so, like, before he even gets there, King's sister's following him.
Yes.
The second he steps into, like, the meeting area, he sees Prince Rurisk, and he's like, that is one of the healthiest men I've ever seen.
I don't think I could picture a healthier, more kingly man.
More charismatic, well-spoken. And Fitz is like, huh. And before he can even think of that, the princess starts talking to him. It was like, hey, do you want a tour of my garden?
Yeah. You do, yeah.
And Fitz is like,
this whole
okay,
time, all Fitz does is sit and learn about different types of poisons, and Kettrikin is like, here, eat some of these leaves. He's like, okay, I will.
Well, this princess is super nice. I wonder why is she talking to me?
And he eats a bunch of leaves, and then Kettrikin is like, I heard there was I heard you trained to be an assassin. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not here for that. And she's like, oh, well.
So also what happens is super funny because Fitz is like, before he goes, Verity's like, hey, I don't, this princess, she's like 18. I'm like in my 30s. Please put in a good word for me.
Yeah, he's like, don't make it sound like she's marrying a decrepit old man.
And Fitz is like trying to do that. He's being like, oh, Verity's great. And like, he's super strong and he's super kind. And Ketchikin's like, huh. Regal said he was an old, sad creep. And then Fitz is like, couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
And Ketchikin's like, you know what? Maybe he didn't tell me the truth about everything. Like, maybe it's not true that you're an assassin sent to kill my brother.
Well, no, that's not what it is. It's that he's like, huh? And he said that you also are like the Lady Time's poisoner. And he's like, he's like, well, I mean, maybe, but I'm mostly here as like official, I'm in like an important kingly guy. And she's like, huh, okay, so you might want to go.
No, because Kettrikin says that Regal one night got drunk.
Yeah,
told her like, hey, anytime if my father says this asshole Fitz or Lady Time, someone's getting poisoned.
Yeah. And so I think Fitz concedes. He's like, well, that may be true. That is not why I'm here. And he like laughs it off, and he goes back to his room. And Chade gave him the fool gave him a present before he left, which was like a purging berry to eat and throw up. And Fitz was expecting to use it on food, but not Lady Kettrikin. And he puts it all together at one time. He's like, oh my god, I've been sent here to be killed. And Lady Kettrikin is like the poisoner of this kingdom,
or something. I don't know if he immediately clocked that it was the leaves he ate. I thought he's like, oh shit, my cover's been blown. If I was in charge of a place, I knew assassin was coming, I would have poisoned them. So he like thinks about what he ate and then he purges himself.
Yeah. And he takes a big long nap.
Now, I think we just go through the climax of the book because this is a crazy climax.
Yeah, a lot happens.
Beat by beat, and there's a bunch of layers. So early in the morning, Fitz is being like, oh, I'm waking up. My stomach doesn't feel really good because I just purged this poison. And he's like shaking a little bit.
Yeah.
Rurisk bursts in and it's like, oh, you're still alive. We tried to poison you. And Fitz is like, I know. I feel horrible. And the Kettrikin comes in and is like, wait, don't poison him.
Yeah.
And they all have a little sit down. And it becomes very clear that Regal has pulled lots of shenanigans.
Yes, he has.
The only reason Shrewd, I mean, we don't know, but we think the only reason Shrewd thought that Rurisk was like sad and ailing was because Regal told him.
Yeah. It's not that Shrewd lied to Fitz. It's that Regal lied to Shrewd.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And they all talk. And Rurisk says like, hey, so we know you're an assassin. You know that we know you're an assassin. If I die, everyone's going to know I was assassinated. Because I'm the healthiest man you've ever seen.
Right.
And the wedding would be off. So, you can't assassinate me. And Fitz is like, fair's fair.
Right. He was like, Fitz was like, as soon as I saw you, I already knew I wasn't going to do that. But yes.
Now, Rurisk makes a deal with Shrewd through Fitz. Like, hey, you don't kill me. And you can have all the timber you want to build your ships.
Yeah.
And
to sail to, because this is something established earlier where Verity's like, we need to build warships like we used to because they're from the Out Islands. And so Rurisk knows this because him and Chivalry were like super fucking tight and presumably would also be tight with Verity. Rurisk is actually who Chivalry was with when Fitz was brought to that fort when he was 6 years old. And so Rurisk is like, hey man, I know you guys want to build all these ships because Chivalry would never shut the fuck up about it. So we'll give you the timber if everything is chill and I become the king.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Fitz is like, All right.
Yeah, I see no flaws in that.
I will send that to Shrewd. Again, 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
They leave. The wedding starts. It's like a full day wedding celebration. And biggest twist of all time, Fitz goes to Rurik like shows him around to like the stables because Fitz is like likes animals and stuff. And he turns around and like there's like a dog next to him and he looks down and it's Nosy. His childhood dog is alive.
Yeah.
Alive and well. And Rurik is like, yeah, Burrick sent us a dog many, many years ago. And Fitz is super happy. And it made me very happy, too, to read.
Me too. And he goes right to Burrick, and he's like, Nosy is alive. And Burrick's like, yeah, of course he's alive. What did you think, I killed him? And Fitz is like, yeah. And it all clicks into place for Burrick. He's like, oh. This whole time
that's
you thought
why you're
so moody.
Your
dog. Yeah. You were afraid of me this whole time? You thought I killed your dog? And he's like, uh-huh. And Burrick's like, I've never been more sorry.
I can't believe you thought so little of me that I'd kill a perfectly good dog.
Yeah.
And Fitz is like, I don't know. I was 6 years old.
And he's like, good point.
So that's great. So then Burrick and Fitz sort of reconcile a little bit. And then Regal summons Fitz. And Regal knows all about Fitz's little mission. And like... loudly in his room, Regal's like, hey, when are you gonna kill Prince Rurik, huh? Get on with it, man. And Fitz is like,
in front of his
Christ,
valet, like the fucking guy. It's
all
insane.
His helpers. And it's super stressful. Like I got secondhand. I'm like right there with Fitz. I'm like, shut up, you
Which we
idiot.
learn like almost immediately that Regal is not being like annoyingly. This is all part of the plan.
Part of
to
the
loudly
plan.
talk about it.
Yeah. And Fitz is trying to explain to Regal, like, so they know we're an assassin, and we have this really cool deal.
Bro, we're fucking made.
And it really seems like it'll be fine if we just don't kill him. And Regal's like,
too bad, so sad.
You have to kill him. Gotta kill him. Gotta poison him. And Fitz doesn't know what to do. So Fitz is like, oh, hey, I need to do a quick Zoom call with King Shrewd, but I can't skill. So I'm gonna talk to August, who is one of my classmates, with
King's
Galen,
nephew,
who hates me, and he like convinces August to like skill to Shrewd, like this super cryptic thing. And the only response he gets back from August is that Shrewd says to listen to Regal.
Yeah, which is not. He didn't. I mean,
no, it was 0%.
No,
well,
no.
I mean, maybe, but
no. I think what happens is Galen had intercepted that because he had a feeling something like that might happen.
Right, or Regal did, or something.
Because listen, King Shrewd.
Because it's revealed King Shrewd is not that strong at the skill anymore.
He can't go that far. He can't skill. Yeah. And so there's no way he could have sent that message back. And even if he had, King Shrewd, like the whole point of Fitz's relationship with King Shrewd is that King Shrewd is willing to he's shrewd. He's willing to listen. So it's insane that he'd be like, fuck you, like do whatever I say.
Right.
Like that's not really their relationship. So Fitz also is like, what? Really? And August is like, I'm busy with paperwork, man. I don't know what to fucking tell you. And then he leaves.
Oh, August. Then it's like night, right? And then Fitz still doesn't know what to do.
Shit goes down.
So he makes some sort of decision. He's like, okay. Middle of the night, he goes to Ketchikan's room. He's like, hey.
This is an insane thing to do, by the way.
Would you still marry Verity if your brother dies today?
This is so beast. Like, this is such a big dick energy move here.
I know.
Like, imagine if he really was going to kill Rurik, like, so what are you going to fucking do about it? Huh? Like, going right to the person.
It's so sad because it's such a smart, like, Fitz plays it absolutely perfectly, but it still doesn't work.
Which is just not, I mean, you could do anything. You could play, if you are trapped and you see the trap, you could play the perfect game to get out of that trap, and little do you know that the room you're trapped in the whole time is also wired to, like, blow and explode. Like, how would you also have been able to know that? Like, it's not his fault. But it's all set up so well. None of this feels contrived. It is, like, fucking... Oh, we missed a part. Fitz, like, leaves... Okay, so it's important that Regal's room is, like, in addition to the palace. It's, like sort of like a big enclosed
like
porch.
A mezzanine sort of.
Yeah. And so Fitz like does like Assassin's Creed parkour like underneath it to like listen, and he can't hear exactly, but he thinks he hears like Regal telling his valets and like his serving boys that like, hey, he's actually a fucking assassin, and he's gonna try to kill the guy or whatever. So you got to go into this room and catch him in the act. So he's like, oh shit, and so then he goes to Kettrick's room and he does this.
I just need to take this time. I hate Prince Regal. Like,
me too. What a good villain.
Have not hated a character in a book since I was like 14.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's really
I hate
good.
him so much.
I love to hate him, man. He's such a good villain. Like, what a perfect. And
he's like cartoony,
the way that
but like smart, but also like not smart, but also like you don't like. Is he dumb? Is he playing 4D chess? Like, you don't know. But you still hate him. You still hate him.
He's perfect.
So Fitz talks to Kettrick. Then Fitz goes, and then Kettrick is like, yeah, I guess I've made this pledge to still marry if my brother died, whatever. And Fitz is like, cool, I'm going to talk to your brother now. Leaves.
Yeah.
Goes to talk to Rurisk, and Rurisk's like, hey, and then he's like, hey, I'm gonna poison you right now.
Right.
And then he like takes out the poison pouch, pours it in his wine, and is like, I did my job, all right? And so then they talk. They share the non-poisoned glass of wine. Kettrick bursts in. Oh my god, Fitz is trying to kill you. But it's all fine.
And they're like laughing at her, and she's like, stop fucking laughing. And he's like, and Verisk is like, oh no, I'm poisoned.
Right, he's like joking.
He's like fake joking.
Well, Fitz, like, before Kettrick knocks, Fitz is like, so that's probably Cobb, Regal's valet, coming in to accuse me of being an assassin. Because, like, Fitz has figured out the plan. Like, oh, accuse me of being an assassin, get rid of me, because Regal hates me. Cobb bursts in, as planned, says, oh my gosh, there's an assassin here trying to kill the prince. At the same time, Rurisk actually gets poisoned. He has a huge actual convulsion. And then Fitz, like, puts it together.
Yeah, he realizes
the wine was poisoned from beginning, and he had some, and so did Rurisk.
And Regal knew exactly that Fitz wasn't going to do it, and then that Fitz was going to go to this room and do this exact thing. But we as the reader, we get one W here, which is Fitz also drank the wine, but not nearly as much, so he's a little bit poisoned, but he just walks right up to Cobb, and he, like, buries a knife. He's like, fuck Cobb. You. Yeah. Which is well-deserved, because Cobb is also, not only is he Regal's man, he's also the new, like, stable boy. It took over for Fitz's position. So that's an extra good, like, fuck you. And in that moment, when he's right there, he stabs him, and he's like, oh, this is the guy who stabbed Burke. Like, he puts it all together right there.
Because he remembers the smell, because Smithy, before he died, remembered that same smell, so that was the guy who was trying to kill Burke. So, unfortunately, Prince Rurisk dies of poisoning.
Yes, he does.
Fitz is horribly poisoned, like, debilitatingly so. Like, he's fucked up. Gets knocked out. And he has, like, a crazy poison dream, a poison skill dream, where Galen is talking about how he's going to kill Verity and how he's working with Regal to do so because they're both loyal to the old queen, who they think was poisoned by Shrewd. And was she poisoned by Shrewd, or was she just like a drug addict? Because she was also a drug addict, but also if you wanted to poison someone and make it seem like they were like it was drugs, then that's who you do it to. So we don't know. So the next day, Fitz tells all that to Burke. Burke's like, we got to do something. And then I think Regal summons Fitz under the pretenses of like, good job, I'm in charge of you, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. He is captured.
By like the Mountain Kingdom police.
Yes. He's captured. He's like brought to the stable. He is found in the stable by Burke. He tells everything to Burke. Now, here's a moment. I've learned I'm not alone in this. Where him and Burke are trying to figure out what to do. They're like, oh my God, what do we do? And he's like, well, what if we, bribed a guard? And Burke is like, bribe a guard? Like, what would we do with that? And he's like, we could bribe him with this. And he shows Burke his earring, which Lady Patience gave him, which at the time is sort of like maybe a little, feels like a nothing scene. But Burke's like, where the fuck did you get that? And he tells her that Lady Patience gave it to me, and he's like, I'm sorry for getting mad. I gave it to Chivalry. And Fitz is like, and then I suddenly, I understood my relationship to Burrick, and I'm like, oh my god, Burrick and Chivalry were gay. There's no way that is not what was happening. They were absolutely gay. Burrick might as well actually be Fitz's real dad. Like, I was like, no, because no fucking wonder he took, like, I'm Chivalry's man. Yeah, I know you are, buddy.
Oh, they have some special bond. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no way that is not what was happening. So he's like, okay, we're not going to bribe him. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. So it's like, okay, sure. Well, what are we going to do? And then at that moment, they're like sneaking around and they're like trying to figure out. And Jean-Quy shows up and she's like, whoa, hey, we're chill. We're chill. I know Rurisk is dead. I don't think you did it. But by laws of our country, she's forgiven you. So you're not wanted by the mountain police anymore. Because that's like the rule. And Prince Regal wants to talk to you. And so... And forgive you also. And so Burrick and they know, I mean, they're like, well, this is
right, because they play it off like Cobb was the one who tried to poison the prince.
Yeah, all the
the
valets and stuff were the assassins, like,
right,
working together.
Yeah. That's how they play it off to like, oh, this was some horrible scheme gone awry. And so everything is fine now. Everyone who's supposed to be guilty is dead.
Right.
And so it was just a tragic accident.
And all you have to do is go and you have to go and let Regal apologize to you. And Burrick and Fitz are like, well, this is the most obvious trap of all time, but we have to, or else, like, we're going to have to go home with it. Like, we have to do that.
Right.
And so they do, and they go to the sauna. They go to the sauna.
Like a sauna, hot tub, hot spring thing.
And he walks in, and Regal it's such a good scene. Like, Regal is at the far end of the room, like, in the tub, and he's, like, and he's like, Fitz, I have something to say to just you. Won't you let Burrick outside? And, like, just outside the door is, like, the biggest, scariest warrior of all time. And Fitz is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And Regal's like, are you really sure? And he's like, yeah. And Regal's like, okay. And then the big guy, like, bashes Burrick's head in.
Yep.
And, like, for 30 seconds of book, Burrick is dead.
Yep.
Like, Burrick is dead. That's how
he's, like, bleeding out of his head on the stone floor of the sauna.
And Regal is, like, Regal gives classic bad guy villain monologue where he's like, I'm still mad at you, even though maybe this first plan didn't go good. They'll just say you tripped and you fell. And before Fitz is drowned in the big tub, because he also gets hit. Am I right about that?
I think they like
or he's just
him.
weak.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because he's weak from the poison. Then he like gets beaten up. And then
Galen's like rib wound reopens or whatever. He like gets kicked right in his rib. Yeah, and so
because Regal hates Fitz.
Yeah, he fucking hates Fitz, and he looks over at Burrick and he sees like the blood congealing on his mouth, like pop for.
Oh yeah, so he's like still breathing.
So he's like, oh my god, he's still breathing. But then Fitz is thrown into the deepest sauna tub and he starts to drown. But he's drowning, and he has such a Vin moment here where everything, all of the lessons he has learned, the skill, he finally realizes how to do it, and he's reaching out to Shrewd, but Shrewd's not answering, and he's reaching out to Verity, and he's trying to contact Verity, but it's not working, and then he finds, like, new power from somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, I love this skill thing, especially with Fitz, because it's such like a metaphor for like his trauma that he's gone. Like he's built all these walls in his mind so he can't do this thing, and the only time he could do it is like when those walls come down, like when he's about to die and he has nothing else to like protect. He doesn't have to do anything else to protect himself from the world anymore, and that's when it all comes out. I think that's just great.
It's awesome. He draws on some sort of source, which I believe is probably Burrick.
Yeah,
because that's what he was doing. I think that's what Galen is referring to earlier in the book as like he's drawing his power from somewhere. And he contacts Verity and he lets him know the skinny. And Verity's like, 10-4, good buddy. Also, stop doing this because you're about to die.
Well, Verity's like, they go and like Galen, because they're Skyping Verity in. And like
via August's eyes.
Via August, the wedding.
Yeah.
And Galen is like, quote unquote, helping Verity because Verity's so sick and weak. And Fitz gets there right in time and is like, hey, Verity, Galen's going to drain you and kill you. And Verity's like, huh? And then Verity draws on Fitz and sucks all the life out of Galen and kills him. Yeah. And like in the middle of all this, August like gets skill wiped and like collapses unconscious in the middle of the wedding. Yeah. And Fitz learns a lot of things at once.
He does.
That Shrewd can't skill anymore. Galen was the bastard of Queen Desire,
Which is why he hated the bastard son also so much.
So he was Regal's half brother, and they planned this whole thing to eliminate the heirs on the Farseer side, so the Queen Desire, whatever that side of the family is, could be in charge.
Yep.
And Fitz blacks out.
Yeah.
That's the end of the climax of the book. So now next is a chapter literally titled Aftermath.
Yes.
So we all learn what happens.
It's also the shortest chapter in the book, and it's sort of just like a list of all the stuff that happens.
Yep. So Burke was alive.
Yep.
Verity was great. August can't skill anymore. Ketrican traveled to Buckkeep. Fitz had to stay back because he was so poisoned and hurt and everything. The Six Duchies got the timber to build the ships.
When at the beginning of the chapter, it says like Fitz was found laying next to Burke.
Oh yeah,
and the last time we saw him, it was drowning. And at the end of the chapter, we realize what happened.
Yep.
But
at the end of the chapter, did we learn anything else before we say the last thing?
We learned that Ketrican like leveraged this trauma and is like an all-timer queen. Like she's fucking awesome and revered, and spirits in Buckkeep are super high. Yeah, they have the timber. They start building warships. They named the first warship after Rurisk, right? Which is cool.
Because part of this ploy with Shrewd was like, we need a royal wedding to like get the spirits of the country up again, and that works because Ketrican is so cool.
But I think that's it. And then the last thing we learn,
Fitz is like, and I was to bear the scars on my hand for the rest of my life of Nosy dragging me out of the tub. He's like, I don't know how he did it, but his was found dead right next to me.
Yeah, that was so sad. The mortal bonds.
And I cried at the end of this book. So, there we go.
Yeah, I got damn
it's so
close.
Good.
It says like the mortal bonds were severed, but I believe he did this of his own accord. Like he had lived his life and wanted to do one final thing.
Because
his old friend.
Right, because Rurisk was his other master, and Rurisk died too, so now this is like his old guy. Oh, so good.
It's so sad. So good.
And what's like the last line? She's so good at these last lines. Here it is. Men cannot grieve as dogs do, but we grieve for many years.
Yeah, that's like a repeated. It's like earlier in the book. I don't remember why that's said. I don't remember what dog is grieving, but somebody says that like Burke is like men do not grieve as dogs do. So for him to recall that, oh my god! But then there's one more chapter.
There's an epilogue.
And it's written in cursive. The beginning of not cursive, but italicized, flowery letters. At the beginning of every chapter is like an excerpt from this weird book that Fitz is writing in tandem to his memoir, which is like what we're reading. And this is written in present tense, so it's not like being written; it's like happening now. And he's like, my boy. He's sitting there. And oh my god, there's this, Danilo, if you find it, you want to read it, it's like the beautiful passage about he sees like the ink spilled on the...
Oh yeah. You are wearied, my boy says. He is standing at my elbow, and I do not know how long he has been there. He reaches forward slowly to lift the pen from my lax grip. Wearily, I regard the faltering trail of ink it has tracked down my page. I have seen that shape before, I think, but it was not ink then. A trickle of drying blood on the deck of a red ship, and mine the hand that spilled it? Or was it the tendril of smoke rising black against a blue sky as I rode too late to warn a village of a red ship raid? Or poison swirling and unfurling yellowly in a simple glass of water, poison I had handed someone, smiling all the while? The artless curl of a strand of a woman's hair left upon my pillow? Or the trail a man's heels left in the sand as we dragged the bodies from the smoldering tower at Seal Bay? The track of a tear down a mother's cheek as she clutched her forged infant to her despite his angry cries. Like red ships, the memory can't come without warning, without mercy.
Man.
And then it keeps going.
Shit.
I know.
Yeah, and then Fitz
so he's had a long sad life, and this is the first installment.
Yeah, really. But at the very end, Fitz remarks on, like, I wonder if I'll ever have to... It's written better than this, but he's like, I wonder if I'll ever have to teach my boy about being an assassin. And he's like, I guess we'll see. And then the book ends.
Yeah.
Well, man.
It's so good. It's
fucking good.
I want to say, potential drawback, it is sort of a book where not a lot happens and then everything happens.
Yeah.
But
this is when it's good.
This is when it feels good because it doesn't feel like it's artificially holding back. It's like, one, I think things that work towards it are like, one, limited point of view because it's a 14-year-old boy, so like he wouldn't know certain things. It's not like omniscient narrator stuff, you know. Two is like the events everyone moving in with their like own agendas builds up to this tension when all these powerful people are in the same place, and that then it like explodes that way. And something that's cool is I think the narrative is like aware of that because the fool at some point, I don't remember if it was the first half or the second half, calls Fitz the catalyst. He's like, you're the one who's in the middle of everything. Like, while you exist, there are so many possibilities. And so he is at the center of all this stuff, and he can affect all these different things in ways that no one can guess, not even the fool. And I think that is super cool.
The difference between this and the Sanderlanche is that when Brandon Sanderson does it, characters are nothing, and then suddenly in the last 20 pages, they are actualized and something happens. This book, characters are developing the entire time, and the only reason the climax can happen is because fully developed characters are having their worldviews challenged or are being asked to use the lessons that they have learned throughout the entire book in a way that affects them and changes the state of either their mind or the world. It seems
like real people. It's so good.
Yeah. And it's oh man, what a book.
Because they make like even like the side characters, like even not Fitz, like everyone's making decisions based on like what they know and their upbringing from where they are and their current situation and how they feel about it, and like, oh, it's just so good.
It is so good. What a
book. Here's a
here
question. Do you think King Shrewd let this happen to Fitz? Do you think he set him up?
I don't know if he set him up, but I think that it was maybe a weird, twisted like game or trial. Like he was willing to use this boy to see if he could do this thing and didn't really care whether, because he has didn't really care whether or not the boy died or not. Hence why Regal literally requests Chade to be sent, and the king says, no, you gotta take Fitz.
Yeah. My opinion is that like Shrewd, there's two ways you could go. Either Shrewd knew nothing of this and he's an idiot, or he knew this was going to end up some way. Like he has like the two factions in his house, like the one from Queen Desire who are like vying for power, and the ones that are like of his line. And so he knows that those two can't live together. So like one has to eliminate the other. So like I think he saw like this being set up, and he's like, I'm going to let it play out because either way, this is going to like coalesce into stability.
Yeah. I don't think he cares about Fitz aside from as a tool. I don't care about a hammer. I'd be willing to break a hammer if it meant I could be alive. And I think that's what he views this human being as. We might have to cut this part out. Did Fitz have his little chores where he ran into the woods with the poisoned bread? Is that this book? No, that is not this book.
Okay, never mind then.
but something in this book that we did not talk about.
It's not a spoiler.
But the Fool's Room. He goes into the Fool's Room, and it's like the most beautiful, like magical decorated room of all time. It's just like the Fool is such an interesting
ceramic
character.
Doll he's taking care of.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. I don't know what that's about, but
so I think, like we said, if you're expecting an action-packed thing, you're not going to get it. If you want characters that are amazing, you should read this book. And I think a lot of people who probably read this book based on like the title, Assassin's Apprentice, and the reputation it has, we're probably expecting something like Mistborn.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
yeah.
like
I
one, like,
definitely
oh,
was.
they're assassins at night, jumping from ledge to ledge, but it's like, oh, he learns how to do poisons.
Yeah, he learns how to be like a better person.
Right.
He's an assassin
all the while.
Yeah, he's learning how to be a moral assassin, which is in itself maybe an impossible thing to be, but that's what makes it so compelling.
We're not even moral. Like, he's trying to like work through, do I actually give my undying loyalty to the king? Like,
Yeah, true.
If it means giving up my morality. I think one of the complaints I see online, I think a lot of the title is sort of not good because it gives you a false impression of what this book is. Because I don't know if he successfully assassinates anyone in this book.
No, he doesn't. Well, he does actually, but it's in sort of like this weird, like, off-screen moment where he's like, in the next 3 months, like, I was sent to kill a bunch of forged and one minor lordling who, like, raped his serving girl.
Oh, that's right.
Like, there's just like that.
Well, I think the forged he was like throwing poisoned bread where the forged were, so they'd eat.
Oh, then that's it. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Though
And
my comment was
like
people. Yeah. My comment then is people thinking, oh, it's an assassin jumping from ledge to ledge, being cool with knives, not a 14-year-old boy dropping bread in the forest. You know,
not actually what like being a court assassin is or was. Like, this is like what
super
it is.
realistic.
It's just like poisoning the people who come to your dinner party.
Again, the book is so grounded, like it feels so real. Like, it's very basic. I was thinking about this all the time. Like, it is the environment, the world is sort of basic, and there's like Prince chivalry and blah 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 blah. But it's like spaghetti. Like, but it's basic and like everyone can make it and you've had it a million times. But it's like the best spaghetti you've ever had in your entire life.
Yeah. I think that's apropos. That's a good way to describe it. It feels, everything about this book on its surface screams to me that I should hate it and think it's derivative. And I found it such an incredibly compelling and beautiful piece of work, and I cannot wait to see the rest of it. So
agreed. I read online that the original title for the first book was called Chivalry's Bastard. I mean, which is such a cooler title.
That's a great
but also
title.
That's not going to sell a lot of copies.
No,
so.
It's not. And how do you spin that off into the other novels where you can say they are Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and you can call it the Assassin Trilogy, even though that's not even what it's called. It's called the Farseer Trilogy, but whatever.
So Mac, what do you rate this book?
I would rate this book -1 billion Mistborns.
Oh, you said higher than mine. I said -1 million. But I'm going to shift this book into another dimension. Like, it really feels like Robin Hobb has a different relationship with the English language than Brandon Sanderson does.
Oh yeah.
Like, on a very fundamental level.
I can't really imagine a world in which you like Mistborn and also this. Like, I just can't.
It's real. They are mutually exclusive.
And if you were offended by that, you should send us an email.
Send us a 5-star review, a scathing 5-star review. Please make it as.
Also, shouts out to you, emailer.
Oh yeah,
thank you so much for suggesting this.
We are reading this book because of you, person who emailed us, so we will not dox.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Danilo,
amazing.
Do you have some 1-star reviews for us?
Oh, I do. I'm gonna give some highlights of what I noticed.
Yeah,
it seems the one, people thought it was boring,
insane,
because not a lot happens, or in the beginning. A lot of DNF'd at 25%, DNF'd at 40%, which is crazy to me.
I don't know why you would brag about that. Like, what a weird thing to do.
Not finish the book and then leave it once and then review it.
Yeah, that's insane. You didn't finish it.
There's some people that like took the character names, took like the stereotypical thing being worked on at face value, and like, oh, it's derivative because it looks derivative. Like,
but that's what makes it so special. Is that
based on our previous thing, they're like, I don't get it. It's just spaghetti. I've had spaghetti a million times. You know, like, no, you don't understand. It's the best spaghetti in the universe.
Yeah.
people incredibly upset about the dogs dying. People not finishing the book when Nosy died, even though Nosy didn't really die if you finish the end of the book. So
That's
people
insane.
read where Burrick killed Nosy, in quotes, and then they'd stop reading the book and they never knew that Nosy was alive at the end, which is insane.
You are 5 years old if you do this.
Or when Smithy died, they're like, I can't believe she killed another dog. And they were like, it doesn't have any narrative purpose. It's just there to tug at your heartstrings. It's such a dumb take. Which, abuse 30 children on the top of the tallest tower.
Well, they didn't
winter.
get there. Oh, I guess they did get there if they knew that Smithy died.
If they knew that Smithy died, right.
But they don't care about that. They just care about the poor little doggy.
Which is hilarious.
Poor little fake dog. It's not even in a movie. You don't even see a dog die. You imagined a dog die.
A fake dog died. All right.
I DNF'd Marmaduke because the dog died.
I DNF'd Lassie right after.
I meant to say Marley and Me, by the way, not Marmaduke. That's my bad. That's my bad. My bad. Whoops.
Oh man. All right. I'm gonna read. There's like one long one that I think is funny. Well, I might not read it because it might be too long. All right. Here we go. This is from Terrence.
Thanks, Terrence.
I never really cared for any of the characters, other than chapters 22 and 23. This book was unable to stir any real interest or emotion in me. My main problem with Assassin's Apprentice is in its storytelling style. I get really turned off when life and death action stories are told entirely in flashback by the main hero. It steals the tension from the story for me because I know, regardless of how bad the hero was hurt, that he's relatively okay because he's recounting the story sometime in the future. And I say,
he's definitely
if you need to know if your main character lives, you are a baby.
Yeah, he's also definitely makes multiple references to the fact that he is anything but okay. Like, I don't
he's like a
understand
drug addict who can't hold a pen. Like, I don't really... Just because he's not dead doesn't mean that it's...
There are things worse than being dead. Like, I don't know.
Right. That was 1 star. Trike, 1 star. Just murmured the... Murmured. Just murdered the puppy. Fuck this book. I'm out.
Okay, baby boy.
Anonymous, DNF at 40%. This is not real fantasy, is it?
What the hell? Real fantasy is when they sit around on a whiteboard talk about thief meeting plan. Fuck
Two
you,
thief
man.
meetings. That's real
Fuck
fancy.
You.
It ain't scrum
That's
meetings
crazy.
in my fantasy. Josie, DNF at 40%. This book was written in such a strange POV. Who writes a fantasy book like a memoir? I was waiting for, and that brings us today, the entire time, but it never came. It really made me disconnect from the characters, as if some old man was telling me a story I didn't care about.
I guess, man.
Yeah. I'm not gonna read that long one. It's so funny because this one, the gist of it is, they hate that they feel like the abuse that Fitz goes through is totally arbitrary. And just there for like shock value and to get compassion. But there's a parenthetical right in the middle of the review that says, just to be clear, horrific abuse is a perfectly fine device when used by a masterful author like Khaled Hosseini to display cultural injustice, or moral ambiguity, or degrees of responsibility, or roads not taken to mull over. I object when the abuse provides no new information or context, i.e. when it is pointless except to drum up drama in an otherwise limp storyline. Which is exactly what the story was.
Yeah.
Like, if you as a reader can't determine the questions that a story is asking, just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
Right. Yeah. The text that that's insane. That's like saying he's not markedly different after that happens. Like, he's an entirely different person. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's not. Or there's a great Reddit comment where someone said, like, the story is about a bunch of, like, just how utterly Fitz has been failed by every single adult in his life. And, like, the tragedy of that. And, like, that is what this story is about.
Yeah, the story's not about an assassin being fucking awesome. Like, who cares about that? That's like if they wrote like a Shade prequel. Like, that's what that
he spends half of this book being sick and injured.
Yeah.
because other adults, because he's been thrust into this situation that he has had no control over, and he's being used as a pawn by all the adults in his life.
Danilo, what was the author that person mentioned? How do you spell it?
Khaled Hosseini, Khaled, last name Hosseini.
Because I was curious.
I don't know what else they wrote. I think it's just
the
a
Kite Runner.
Ah,
Right. I've never read that. However, I will say it seems like his books are historical fiction based in real thing. Like, this book is about something that happens in Kabul. So I imagine there is, like, a class disparity perhaps results in class violence. And it's like, yeah, I think this person is more hinting on the fact that they find that more compelling, which this is totally fine. Like, finding a real thing more compelling and relatable than a totally made up fake thing more compelling and relatable.
Yeah.
But don't pretend
That's
as
just
if
like a story.
the violence in Assassin's Apprentice is just there to be like based and awesome.
To
like, that's not
quote,
what's
drum
happening.
up drama.
Yeah, that is not no.
Or,
That's
like,
wild.
I think it's almost, like, excusable sometimes, because I think, fantasy does have a bad rap of just, like, weird white dudes writing their weird pain fantasies.
Yeah.
And so it sort of makes sense that certain fantasy readers would maybe be their, like, radar for that sort of thing is maybe a little overtuned. So when they do see it done in a way that's, like, maybe more subtle or, more complex, they just think it's this one thing, even though it's not, because it's been done a bunch of times before. So it's like, it's understandable, but that doesn't mean it's right.
No, it's frustrating. Yeah. Not everybody. You don't sound smart when you leave a 1-star review of an incredibly popular fantasy novel.
I can't believe this book had a king and didn't even directly bring up any of the issues with monarchy.
I know, and they actually do. Like, taxes are constantly being like. There's like literally a sentence where Verity's like, "Well, that's what happens when we live in a monarchy that taxes its people the way we do." Like, it actually does do shit like that.
I know, but I didn't notice it, therefore it's arbitrary.
I was listening to it while I was at the gym and I didn't hear it. Like, okay.
All right, this is anonymous. 1 star. Every decade I try to read this. I'll try again next decade.
That's awesome. That is
funny.
Awesome. That's awesome. Shout out to you, man.
Jared says, chivalry is dead. So is this book. 1 star.
Got him.
And a review, 1-star review from James Singh is the single word, lowercase, bland.
Damn.
Yeah.
Probably is bland if all you read is the first 15 pages.
And you nope out as soon as anything mildly upsetting happens.
Upsetting. Yep. Yeah. Stick to fucking Brandon Sanderson, man. Fuck you. That is crazy.
Yeah, no one has sex. No one ever dies. And when they die, it's off screen.
Or it's like they're hit by a weird sword and smoke comes out of their eyes. So
right, and you don't know if they died. Or like, and then it all went dark. And you're like, okay. And then later people are like, oh, they died, remember?
Yeah, okay, sure. That happens a lot.
One of these days we'll have a show where we don't bring up Brando Sando. But
no, that's our whole thing. No, literally we can't. That's our rating system. It always gets
I guess, yeah, that's right. All right. I don't have anything else about this book, Mac.
No, me neither.
All right.
Go read it.
Go read it.
Give Robin Hobb all your money, unless we don't know something about her and she's deeply problematic. But I'm pretty sure she's cool.
Hey, 17 books in this world. They are all done, and it's a fully complete story, which is awesome.
I love that.
Next time, we will be reading The Royal Assassin, which is a thicker book, but maybe we'll do it in one episode, or maybe we'll do 2. I guess you'll find out later.
When it comes out.
Yeah. And so if you like the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app or the Apple Podcast Store, where you buy all the podcasts and put them in your cart and take them to self-checkout and all that stuff. And if you have any other feedback or recommendations or anything, you can email us at hardcoverhooligans@gmail.com.
Yeah, so far every recommendation we've gotten, which is one, has been an all-timer, so you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Nice. That's all I got.
Anything else? All right.
Nope.
Well, go throw some loaves of bread in the woods, but don't poison them because that's illegal. Probably.
Yeah, don't poison them. Don't poison them. It is. I would imagine it's illegal to leave poisoned food out for people to eat. That's just me.
Yeah, but what if those people are forged? What if my neighbors are forged?
Forged. Oh, speaking of forged, stay hard, everybody. Right.
Yeah.
Iron. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Stay hard as iron.
Stay Hard as iron. Wow.